Yo, what's going on guys, and welcome back. As you can see here, we're going to be ranking every single attacker in Rainbow Six Siege, including the brand new operator Ram, and then at the end of the video, I'm going to pick my top 3 attackers which you need to be using this season. So without further ado, make sure you stick around to the end because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of rankings here that you're going to disagree with. And without further ado, let's start it off with the new operator, which should be Here She Is. Now, as of recording, she is only available on the test server, but I have played her. I have seen what she can do. Right now on the test server, she is not countered by anyone, and I'm very interested to see how she impacts the actual meta of Siege next season. So without further ado, I think it's safe to say she's going to be an easy A tier. I think she also has the potential to be an S tier operator, but the only reason I'm going A tier over S tier is because I believe where it's only her first season, I don't think she's going to be able to be used at her full capability. I think it's going to take a while for her to settle into that meta, and I'm also trying to be a little bit cautious here because I don't want to overestimate how good she's going to be. With that being said, make sure you comment down below where you think Ram is going to be next season. But moving on from her, we now have Ace, which is still comfortably one of the best hard breachers in the game, if not the best hard breacher in the game. Comes equipped with the best loadout of all the hard breachers in the game with that AK-12. To be honest, I don't think Ace has any downsides other than the fact that he has to use 2 of his breaches to go through a reinforced hatch, in which case you can just use someone else's hard breach device or something like that to open it up instead. Next up then we have Amaru, who I think is definitely an underrated operator. A lot of people think that she's just a rush in and die kind of operator. She's definitely more than that, but with that being said, she can be hit or miss, so I'm going to keep her in the B tier. Moving on then to Ash. I definitely have been playing Ash a lot more this season, and I probably will be continuing to play Ash next season. I think she belongs in this B/A tier category. The only reason I'm going to put her in B tier is because I do think there are people who bring more utility than her. She does have the potential to bring breach charges as well to enhance her vertical play, but more times than not, there is going to be better alternatives to an Ash. With that being said then, we are moving on to one of the worst operators in Rainbow Six Siege right now. It is Blackbeard. Once again, I say this every year, it feels like, and Ubisoft still have not done anything about it, but Ubisoft really need to rework Blackbeard. There is something fundamentally wrong with him. If they buff his gadget in the way that it currently is, he's overpowered. If they nerf it, he's underpowered more than he already is. So I think they're going to have to come up with some kind of rework for Blackbeard. But with that being said, let's move over from him over to Blitz. Now, Blitz for me is comfortably probably the best shield operator in the game, other than maybe Osa, if you want to count her as a shield operator. With that being said, I do think he is a C tier operator. I'm very interested to see how the shield reworks impact all the shield operators in the game. I don't know if it's going to make them more viable in ranked and stuff like that, but for now I do think Blitz is a C tier operator, and I'm looking forward to using that shield rework next season. Next up then we have Brava, the second newest attacker on this list, and I feel like she's kind of been forgotten since she's released. She kind of came out, everyone was talking about her, and then last season everyone just kind of forgot about her, and I do think she does have a place in Siege. I do think she is a A/B tier operator. I'm going to put her in A tier rather than B tier for the main reason that I do think she is better than Twitch, and in my opinion Twitch is going in B tier. Now, the reason I think she is better than Twitch is because she can actually change that utility and switch teams. So any defender utility like Capcan traps, Aruna gates and stuff like that, you can actually switch it over to your team, giving your team more utility and also potentially having the knock-on effect of getting some free kills with that gadget. I know it is a little bit harder to take things out / change them to your own team, but I do think that overall Brava is a better drone operator than Twitch right now. While we're on the topic of drone-based operators, let's have a look at Flores, because I think he is also an A tier operator. I actually think he is going to be better than Brava next season, and that's for the main reason that he can take out so much utility and it doesn't take him a long time to kind of hack it, if you know what I mean. So with that being said, and all the drone-based operators ranked, let's have a look at the next operator, which is going to be Buck, which is still one of my favorite operators to play in the entire game right now. One of the best assault rifles in the game, good useful utility, his gadget is amazing, and overall he can just do a bit of everything. You got I'm not gonna lie, I was not expecting that to pop up. So, as I was saying before I was rudely interrupted, he has the hard breach gadget, so he can open up reinforced walls and hatches if they haven't been electrified. He has a great weapon. He can do a lot of soft breach damage. He can use that shotgun also just to take out infantry up close, which by far makes him one of the most versatile attackers in the whole game. Moving on over then to Capitao. For me, he's just quite a mid operator. Every time I try use Capitao, it just doesn't really go as planned. I know that he does have some useful use cases, but it seems very niche that you can actually take full advantage of that. Next up then we have Dokkaebi, which is another easy S tier operator. The last few seasons I've been really using DMRs, especially on defense with Aruni, but this is not a defender video. But that DMR on attack, I've really got used to using DMRs in Rainbow Six Siege recently, and I am loving it right now. And Dokkaebi is by far one of the best operators besides her loadout. See, the one thing that puts people off Dokkaebi is the loadout itself. So if you can get used to that DMR, then she can be extremely useful for not only you, but your entire team. It counters roamers, it counters people hiding, it literally counters anyone on objective. It just gives you a lot of intel overall. But moving on from Dokkaebi then, we now have Finka. I definitely think she is still an A tier operator, but I just don't think she is as good as she once was. Once again, it is a good operator, but kind of niche use case once again, but it does have the added benefit of being the only attacker in the entire attacking lineup right now that can deal heals, unless obviously a Brava hacks a Thunderbird gadget or something like that. But moving on from Finka then, we now have Fuze, which is definitely a powerful operator. I've noticed that Fuze has been banned a lot more in ranked and in unranked right now, because a lot of people are starting to come around and realize how strong Fuze can actually be, and not in the sense of getting kills, because I think a lot of people try focus on getting kills as Fuze, but if you use Fuze and his cluster charges correctly, it can actually be a great utility clear. On top of that, he does come equipped the AK-12, once again, as I said, for Ace, one of the best assault rifles in the game. Honestly, I'm kind of tempted to give Fuze an A tier pick, but because of the amount that he is banned, he is quite a slow operator, I am going to leave him in B tier. Moving on then, we now have Glaz, another Russian operator. With Glaz, I do think the secondary SMG really does help him as an operator, but I still think he is very niche use cases. I mean, with the smokes, you can be quite aggressive with him, and if you have good aim, you can be quite aggressive with him, but as a console player like myself, I do think he belongs in B tier. I can't put him any higher than that. I think on PC, where you can have more accurate aim, he can definitely be an A tier operator for fragging out alone, but overall I do think he belongs in the B tier category. Moving on over then to Gridlock, I definitely think she is still underrated. I'll be interested if Ubisoft decide to buff or nerf her at all. I think she is underpicked in the win rates and stuff like that, so I do think there could potentially be some changes that Ubisoft could make to her, but right now I do think she still does her job better than anyone in the game. I do think she's actually better than Nomad, so for that reason I'm actually going to stick her in A tier this time around. I do think she's a very solid operator. She has a great loadout as well. Both weapons that come on Gridlock are actually extremely underrated. If you don't play Gridlock all that much, I recommend you give her a go next season. But moving on from Gridlock, we now have Grim, which is a very interesting one because he is receiving part 2 of his buff. Now, part 2 of his buff is kind of like a loose rework. Basically, he now has the added ability of being able to bank his canisters off walls and stuff to kind of deploy your bees in a safe way, and being able to deploy bees where you wouldn't normally be able to from certain positions. Overall, it's just a massive addition to Grim. I think it definitely helped him out a lot. The main issue with him is that you literally have to face check everything and literally show your entire head while being completely defenseless to get a gadget deployment off, and where that has now been changed, I do think he has the potential to be an A tier operator, but I think I'm going to leave him at the top of B tier because, once again, I don't want to be too optimistic on how big of a change this really is. It probably isn't going to have much of a difference on his win rate or pick rate, to be honest. But with that being said, let's have a look at Hibana next. I definitely like playing Hibana. I've noticed recently I've kind of strayed away from ACOGs in the last few years of Siege, especially with the addition of the 1.5 times scope. But in the last few seasons, people like Gridlock, Lion, which we'll get onto in a minute, and Hibana, I've actually been running the 2.5, like the OG ACOG, and I've been loving it. It's been allowing me to like hit my shots a lot more consistently, and I've noticed I've been getting a lot more headshots, and that is one thing that I think Hibana definitely excels at. I would put her top of A, but her gadget is just so useful. I think almost any hard breacher in the game deserves S tier just because of how useful they are. And while we're on the topic of that, let's bring Thermite into S tier as well, because once again, hard breacher, good weapon, good utility. There's nothing really missing from all of the hard breaches in the game right now. With that being said, then we have another S tier operator coming up, and it is Iana. By far, probably the strongest operator on the attacking team right now. I mean, if used correctly, Iana can literally get you so many free kills. You basically have an unlimited amount of intel at your disposal. You can also bait people by actually them thinking it is you, and overall she also has a great loadout. She has frag grenades, which I think they mentioned they could be removing from her in the mid-season patch, so she may be an S tier for now, but she might actually drop off towards the end of year 8 season 3. But for now, she's definitely going to be an S tier operator going into year 8 season 3, and I can't wait to use her for another season of Siege. Right, so now I'm going to quick fire a few of these, starting off with IQ. I don't think she's as good as people think. Yes, she can spot electronics through walls and it is useful, but I think she deserves frag grenades. If Iana is losing them, I think she needs to swap her frag grenades with IQ, because if IQ gets frags, she's going to be able to actually use that intel that she can gather from her gadget. For me, I'm actually going to put her in B tier. She does have a good loadout, but overall, I mean, I can't really put her any higher than that anymore, because I just don't think she's as useful as she once was. Jackal for me is good. I think I'm going to put him in A tier. He's banned a lot. He can be very, very strong against roamers and stuff like that. Overall, though, I can't really put him too high because of how often he is banned. I don't know why he's banned as much as he is. I think an Iana ban, it would be a lot more useful, or even like a Dokkaebi ban. But hey, the Siege community doesn't like being tracked, do they? So it makes sense. Next up then we have Callie. Good useful utility, but the sniper really does hold her back. I think I'm just going to put her alongside Glaz. In fact, I might have to bump her up a little bit here because she has a lot more utility than Glaz. In fact, I might even have to drop Glaz down to a C tier. With that being said, then we now have Lion, which in the last season of Rainbow Six Siege, year 8 season 2, I've been loving playing Lion recently. One of my favorite operators, probably my most played attacker actually last season. Even though all of these operators are definitely better than Lion, usually everyone else on your team gets to pick these operators before you. And to be honest, playing Lion as a frag and as just an intel gatherer, I've been loving it recently, and I do think he belongs in the A tier category. Next up then we have Maverick. I think Maverick could do with adding frag grenades to his loadout again. I think he's just an average B tier operator. We might have to shuffle a few of the things around here towards the end of the video, but for now I'll leave it. Next up we have Monty. I'm going to put Monty in C tier. Could even be a D tier operator, but I'm not going to do that to him. I do like my boy Monty, so I will leave it as it is. Nokk for me is also going to be a B tier operator. I never really understood the hype around Nokk, and then obviously she got her changes at the mid-season patch last season, so it's kind of hindered her a little bit. Nomad, once again, B tier operator, very average, not really that great unless you're solo queuing and you want a little bit more protection. She can be useful post plant, but other than that, she is quite niche. Osa is another one of those operators I've really been enjoying recently. I think she has one of the highest win rates out of the entire attacking lineup. So for that reason, I'm going to put her right at the top of A tier. I think she narrowly misses out on that S tier. If you haven't been playing Osa recently, I highly recommend that. Next up, we have Sens. I think Sens does belong in D tier, and I don't know why his icon is slightly bigger than everything else. That's really annoying me, but I think Sens does belong in D tier. I think they need to kind of do a rework. I did a post on it. I'll show it up on screen here. I think they need to show like a trail of where it's going to go. Kind of like what you can see on the new operator's drone. You know, you just see a line of where it's going to travel. So you can kind of predict where you're going to be throwing your gadget. I think a slight change like that is going to make Sens 10 times more useful, and I think that change alone wouldn't even be a buff either. It'd just be like a tweak. I think that could take him from D tier all the way up to B tier, but Ubisoft I don't work for Ubisoft, so they'll have to do it on their own accord. Okay, so now we are left with 5 operators left. Where would you rank these operators? Which one's the best out of this? I'd probably say 0 is the best. I'd probably put 0 in A tier. But now going in order, we have Sledge, which is another A tier operator. Not quite as good as 0, but he's definitely quite good. I think with the addition of Ram, Sledge is no longer the best soft breacher. Ram can just do so much destruction. Nothing counters her gadget. Kind of similar to Sledge actually, but she can do it remotely while also doing her own own thing. But with that being said, moving on, we now have Thatcher, easy A tier operator, could even be S tier. He just counters everyone in the game. He's always going to be useful. If he's not banned in a ranked game, you need to be bringing him almost every attacking round. Ying, I think, is very underrated. I'm actually going to put her in A tier as well. And then with Zofia, I think I'm just going to leave her in B tier. I'm not quite sure. I really do not play Zofia enough. So that is it. We have ranked every single attacker in Rainbow Six Siege. Now it's time to pick my top 3 attackers. So in my opinion, I'm going to have to pick 3 operators here that are going to be extremely useful, extremely versatile, and are going to help you rank up. So starting things off, Ace is by far the best hard breacher. You can't go wrong with picking him literally any map, any round. Literally, he's always going to be useful. Also has a very good loadout. I think next up, we're going to have to put Buck up there because of how versatile he can be. He has hard breach devices, so much soft breach, shotgun, good AR, literally everything you could ask for. And then finally, out of these 4 operators, I don't really want to put a second hard breach in there, so it's in between Dokkaebi and Iana. And just because of Dokkaebi's loadout, I think I am going to put Iana in top 3. So that's my top 3 operators in the game. Let me know if you agree, let me know if you disagree. Click the video on screen, and without further ado, I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.